We are the two broadcasters. Here we are. Two broadcasters podcast coming at you for another great episode on this cold day. I'm Lori Day here with my beautiful co-host Sarah Jenkins. Sarah, what's up?
The frozen Arctic that is Middle Tennessee. That's what's up.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about the 1994 Nashville situation there. I had a friend that told me on Facebook last night, she goes, yeah, remember I ended up spending the night at your house? And I go, no, I don't remember that at all. And she goes, well, you never ended up coming home. And I was like, where was I? What happened? I remember Patricia Conroy and I were sitting at the Sunset Grill, and all of a sudden it was like, am I tripping or is that glass around that tree right now? And we sat there, and it just like from the time we went in there until the time we left, like was a whole weird vortex we stepped into. It was horrible. So I just
wow.
know what that ice situation out there can be just so nasty. And I'm just really, the trees and the property, it's terrible. So anyway, it's not a great thing. And people punk out the Southerners all the time. And it's like, yeah, we'll live in it in 5 months. No, you're not living in no ice storms 5 months. Okay.
Right.
You're just not. And, I'm here in Nebraska. And we didn't get the ice, but it's so freaking cold. I feel like we're practicing here for a Greenland expedition, So
oh no.
that might be what's happening. It's just like, can we get to a double digits? It's like below zero all the time for the last several days. So ice logs on the windows, and
I was going to say you have ice coming inside the windows of your house. That's crazy.
100%. And it's not good. The windows don't look good with rolled up towels at the bottom, but what are you going to do? You're just doing what you can do, and life could be a whole hell of a lot worse. So I'm not complaining because my buddies out there in Tennessee got it a whole lot weirder right now. So
and Mississippi got it even worse than we did. So here's to everyone suffering in Mississippi right now. We're thinking about you.
It's not a good thing. So prayers that the powers start coming back up, and prayers for those people working to try to get power up and all that. It's not a
Yes. Can we give a shout out to all the linemen?
The linemen. All the county linemen.
They are so underappreciated, and they're probably
So
the last
much.
people we think about, and they are risking their lives, and they're doing so much right now. So thank you to them and their families for all that they
100%.
do. Yeah.
100%. Well said. So Sarah, listen, we got to get into this, all right? Because we have a guest, and it's the first guest of the new year, Sarah. And listen, we're going to get in, okay? Because we are both so excited about this guest, because this guest, she doesn't even probably realize, she embodies so much about what we talk about here on this podcast from so many different angles. And for anybody who listens to our cast enough, it'll just scream, and you'll know why. And we'll get into that. But without further ado, we have a friend who's here with us named Clare. And Clare is a fascinating lady, and I really dig what she's doing. But Clare, and people may know her from the music industry, particularly if you follow country music, you probably do know of Clare. But I like Clare's little journey, and in a nutshell, and I hope I don't blow up, but she's from the southeastern part of Colorado, which, I call the plains, because I lived in Nebraska. I currently am residing in Nebraska. And then I moved to Colorado, and I know that trip between Nebraska and Colorado quite well. And in fact, matter of fact, I used to say, I think Eastern Colorado might be duller than Nebraska. And that I don't even know if we can get to that point. However, so kind of a prairie soul sister right there. But she left there, the family ranch. That's what was happening there in her life as a youngin'. Then she, with her musical talent, went to Nashville to go to college to get a very nice little music situation going there in Nashville, Tennessee. And while in school, she got an internship, I believe, through a publisher. But at any rate, she ended up getting a publishing situation. She was writing songs with people. She ended up getting some cuts and got, listen, people were noticing. And meanwhile, she's just a singer, like a singer's singer. She's a storyteller. And she can play a wicked guitar, just saying. So she gets a little band together. She starts hitting out with her stuff, starts doing a little tour in action. And next thing you know, she's getting a big fat record deal. Okay. This is like a beautiful little story, all right, of success, of just, it seemed like it was just all lined up for. Next thing you know, though, Claire is stuck in a thing that's really not agreeing with her so much. And, this is where rubber meets road on what somebody believes and what how important their own values are and things like that. She used 2020, get back to the ranch, and sort of disassemble herself with the music industry. She has not quit being a musician, though, and she has not quit being a storyteller, and she's not quit being a singer. She owns all of her own music now. She's doing an independent thing, and she's back on the ranch. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting, though. Because not only is she being able to belt out some amazing storytelling through her singing voice, but now she's using her voice, her speaking voice, to speak out for the farmers of this country. And, us two broads talk about real food all the time. And we talk about how people don't even understand what real food even is. And so the sort of the whole thing about Claire coming with her voice, and now she's got the music thing going, but now she's using her voice in a very needed sort of almost a vacuum of what's not getting talked about enough. And so without further ado, we're going to bring in Clare Dunn. And I hope that wasn't too long and too many mistakes didn't fly off the no page. Okay. This is probably the problem, Claire. No pages over here. But welcome to the show, Clare Dunn. You're awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. And that was an amazing intro. I don't know if somebody sent you a bio or you did all your own research, but thank you so much. That was just awesome and correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's my little?
I know.
Where's the bell?
You gotta get a bell to ring on that one.
Thank you.
Shake a tambourine or something like that.
That's it. I think, I know kind of where you seem to really be setting these days, and it's so important. And it seems like now you're getting invited to more and more things, Claire, to speak on behalf of the agriculture industry, on behalf of farmers. And so you're stepping into a whole lot of landmines of what? Oh, that, huh? Oh, so you're learning a lot, I think, probably very quickly, even though you've been from a ranch, your families, you got all that going on, but you get into your own thing, this, that, and the other thing. When you start lifting veils and you start going down research holes, I'm sure you can attest to what that's been like recently. But I would like to say that first off, it's amazing. And I'd like for you to share with us a little bit about your sort of real red alert thing that you got going on this. If you want to share with us a couple of things that really feel like we need to, what are we doing right now? Okay. So if you just want to trigger us, man, trigger us.
Oh, it's all triggering. That's for sure. And, I could be here all day talking about all the in the weeds things, for me, I think, some people may look at what I'm doing and think, oh, well, she's just a singer. Now she's going to go be an ag influencer. And actually, it's the exact opposite. I'm a farm kid through and through, way before I was ever an artist. But now we have gotten into such a crossroads in agriculture that I was looking on social media and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. And you want to advocate for agriculture, and that's great. And we need all voices. But I started to speak up because as a farm kid, my family, we don't take vacations. We don't talk anything really except business growing up. And I think that's something that, even in my music career, people weren't used to, because I'm a kid that came from a farm. I'm the youngest of two girls. And all we did growing up was go with our parents, bump along to farm and ranch. We were the farm boys they never had. And then at night we were talking, or we were listening as little girls, and my parents were talking business and balance sheets and bottom lines. And we got to see from an early age what it really means when policies come out that affect the bottom line of the pocket of a farmer and rancher. And so for me to get into this thing of ag influencing or ag advocating or whatever people want to call it these days, that's the thing that I've been my whole entire life. And even when I was on my major label deal, here's a story I've never told anybody. So my song Tuxedo got pulled from radio. Meanwhile, it was breaking records. It was outselling #1 records on the charts. It was out streaming everybody, but it got pulled for some reason in 2017. And I went home to go celebrate my birthday with my family. While I was there, we got hit with a 100-year blizzard at the end of April. Going into May. We don't have blizzards in our part of the country, even though we got wicked weather. We don't have that at that late of the year. It was a devastating thing. We were actually going to work cattle to prepare them to go out for summer pasture. That's why I went home. We were going to celebrate my birthday somewhere in there at the same time, and we were going to all work together. That's our vacation as a family. We all do farm and ranch projects together. And we got hit with this massive blizzard. I've got so much content from that I've never even shared. I probably will be sharing it, but it was devastating. And so then this past year, I start seeing these other people who are going to DC, who are making policy that farmers and ranchers have to live and die by. And I'm just like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not trying to degrade anybody. This is really pointed at about 2 or 3 particular people. But I just decided we have to step up and talk about the truth and the realities of agriculture. And my biggest trigger thing, if you want to, whatever you want to call that we're hurtling towards a cliff in this country. And it has to do with national sovereignty and national security. And the whole big picture of this is we're losing farmers and ranchers at an alarming rate. Mm-hmm. We're on target. We'll wait to see what the numbers actually come out with. But we were on target last year to lose another 10 to 20,000 farms and ranches. Every time we lose one, guess what? We lose a private property owner. In this nation, our middle class has been hollowed out to the point where we won't have middle class people in there replacing those landowners. It'll be BlackRock, it'll be billionaires, and yes, even foreign countries. In Oklahoma, before the legislators got a hold of it, there were millions of acres owned by the Chinese in Oklahoma. Nobody really wants to talk about that on the national news. And the Oklahoma government got it finally stopped to where now they've got a handle on that. But we still do have foreign nations coming in and buying our property. And that, if we continue to lose, you see, the farmer and rancher are the last stand between total totalitarian control over our people and not having that.
100%.
We've got to be able to grow our own food here. And there is, speaking about piercing the veil, I have seen a lot of behind the scenes stuff in the short amount of time I've really been involved in ag advocating, or whatever you want to call it, since about May of last year. There is an effort to outsource our food production here in this nation so that everyone can do it cheaper everywhere else. They don't have the standards that American farmers and ranchers have to deal with, that we would gladly deal with, because we believe in creating the safest, the highest quality product anywhere in the world. And we do that day in and day out. But we cannot have the sellout of our private property to all of these huge entities and our land be controlled by a few, which if you're a history nerd like myself, that's basically England pre-1776. Few people own the land. And how well did that work out for everybody? Mm-hmm. There's nowhere else for us to retreat to. And so that's kind of the biggest issue that we're truly facing, that I see. And there's so many layers underneath that.
Sure.
That's at the top. And we as Americans need to educate. And that's what my main mission statement is, to educate the average American person, because it's not, they will be the ones to pay the highest price. in all of this. If we lose our national sovereignty and we outsource our food production, it's 350 million Americans that will pay the cost for that, not just the 2% that are farmers and ranchers. Everyone will pay the cost. So anyway, that's
It's kind of a big deal.
kind of,
It's huge.
it's a long answer, but
It's ridiculous, and it's so true. And this land grab stuff has been happening,
yeah.
Now you got, I don't know, somebody in Nebraska chime in, whatever. I'm pretty sure we've got some China-owned land here. We also have some Bill Gates-owned land here. And then we've got the other thread of all the data centers. Now, so Sarah and I have done a couple podcasts on data centers and how they're, it just seems weird that they have to include, agricultural zoned land with this when there's other options. First of all, assuming that you're even into it. If you're into it, there are options of land. And no, a lot of these places now, it's more and more sneaking into the ag land. And it's just an unbelievable thing how you see counties and cities are secretly rezoning stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a thing that's going to work against the private property owner at some point down the road. And I've seen this firsthand experience. I know from people I know here that can't parcel their land. They can't this, that, or the other thing because we have designated this for future zoning. What? Yeah. It's unbelievable that there's so many different levels of trickery that's being played. It's not just like one move.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of spinning plates. And they just hope that, looking over here, looking over there, we got this. And, locale boards, zoning boards, city councils, county commissioners, all this stuff. They're in on a lot, they have their own little trickeries going that grant money has bought them, this, that, and the other thing. And it's just all part of the long, you'll own nothing and like it plan.
Yeah. Well, and I think now more than ever, it's so important that people get involved in their local, I hate to say it, but politics isn't everything, guys. I know a lot of people don't want to talk politics, but it affects us every day. We need to be affecting politics every day. As American citizens, we have to be involved in our local governments. And I know the media likes to keep us all focused on the federal level and then, that level of government. And that's good. We should be focused on that. But we got to have our focus at home. You need to be in those commissioner meetings. You need to be voting for those commissioners. You need to be understanding what your water boards and your water districts and your city councils are doing, because they do have that authority and that power. And it's not right that we as American citizens have to have this massive burden put on us to not only pay all these exorbitant taxes, but also we have to defend our rights against these massive NGOs and massive billionaire interests. Yeah, it's not right, but it's where we're at. And if we've got two choices, we either jump in as a nation, there's 350 million of us, or we let a few run our lives and tell us how to live. And, there's a lot that can be uncovered and a lot that can be exposed if we will all just go pick one place that we want to focus on. A lot can be done in that. And I highly encourage people to get involved. And I'm actually starting an organization. We can talk about it later, but we're going to help encourage people to do that. And we're going to help people find the resources they need to jump in the river, whatever river you want to jump in and swim. So you're exactly right.
Oh, I love that. You just mentioned water. And one thing that we've talked about a lot on the show in several episodes is the water rights being bought up all over the United States right now. What is your take on that? What is some information that you have been privileged to as far as the danger to land and property, private property ownership, farmers and ranches, and these water rights being bought up and who's buying them up?
Well, so I'm actually working on a case that affects my home area. And I'm still in the research phase, but I spent an entire Sunday in my hotel room on the road I had some private gigs in California, and I had Sunday off, and I just spent my entire day in my hotel room researching this water issue. And the overall arching thing I can tell people is that A, water rights are under attack no matter where you are. And B, there is really not much that is done these days in terms of water. Okay, water districts are not there to protect the American citizen. They're there to essentially strip away most water rights. When, at least in the state of Colorado. Now, I could be wrong. It could be different in other parts of the world, but I can tell you as a Coloradan, native Coloradan, those water districts are not there for anyone else's interests but government and big business. They're not there for the average American citizen. And they've already worked on stripping away a lot of, and have stripped away a lot of private water rights. And they do it under the guise that, like, oh, well, this is going to help you. And, I'm the federal government, or I'm the state government, and I'm the county government, and I'm here to help. It never works out that way. And I can tell you that from examples where I'm from. And on this newest water issue that I'm researching, this may be, I don't want to say the name of it just yet because I'm still researching and I don't like to speak publicly until I'm fully done. But as the research shows right now, this water effort that is being played out to many citizens as, oh, well, you'll get water. You'll get water to your rural communities. The way it's going to play out, according to what I've seen, the rural communities are going to pay for the pipeline. They're going to pay for the water to be shuttled to them. But there is a district, a water board district upriver that will decide whether the water goes in the pipeline or doesn't. And that is the trickery that we're dealing with here. And it's going to take every single American putting your nose in to the grindstone. Take a weekend, research something for yourself. Everyone has got to, we can't just take other people's word for it right now, in my opinion. And that is the scariest thing that I'm uncovering, is that this water pipeline, if it gets passed somehow, early reports show that it will screw the people that they're claiming it will help the most. I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, listen, color me shocked over here. Because they're probably going to funnel it to where the next data center is going to go. Cause they know there's a water problem. There's a water shortage. There's crisis.
In this particular instance, really what it is an excuse to get water up the Front Range of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
They own the water rights, this particular water board. It's a long, complicated story. They gave $14 million to the state for a different water issue so that they could trade off and get control over these water rights. And then they'll just sell them upriver to the Front Range, to Aurora, to Denver, to all these other places that they want more water, but they don't want to
pay
communities. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And, the overreaching goal is to not have these little rural communities. We can't be having it. We got to bring everybody into the cities. This is the whole thing of how they're squeezing these small counties, these rural areas, these agricultural breadbaskets out is unaffordability, unaccessibility, threatening, I'm just not trying to get water for my family over here. We got livestock, we got this, that, and the other thing, we got crops, so people go, I guess we'll pay because we need more water down here. And then, oh, by the way, no, the water's not coming to you. I mean, this is just, listen, here's my thing too. Why, if we can't come together on food and water, I need the check, please. I don't know what's happening right now, because there's a whole lot of problems. All right. Whole lot of problems.
Yeah.
But if you're starving and there's no food, none of those problems matter. And has it ever happened that countries have tried to starve out their only people? Okay. Sorry. No. Bookmark that for later. It's ridiculous.
Never happened.
People, it's
No.
never happened, and it could never happen
This is
again.
brand new information.
This is okay. News breaking. We need a little sound effect for that too. Okay.
This just in.
This is we need like a horse race kind of gallop.
Power hungry people exist.
This is called the catch-up lane in history. Let's go ahead and get that
Absolutely.
fast forwarded, bringing you up to speed.
The thing about my efforts, and I just started a podcast as well. It's called The Real Rule. If you guys want to check it out, please do. But my whole mission statement, if you will, is to defend rural America, because rural America is dying on the vine.
100%.
But if you can control rural America, you can control this nation, because rural America, although we only provide or make up 17% of our population, farmers and ranchers are 2%. And then everybody else in rural America, I guess, would be 15%. Lump those together, you get 17%.
Wow.
But we supply almost half of our armed forces. And that's just from what we can find online. A lot of those reports are not willingly shared, because that's a pretty strong statistic. 17% of our small towns, our farming communities, our little towns below a certain threshold. I think the threshold is like below 30,000 people, that's considered part of rural America. Those are the people that sign up to defend this country by and large. And that's not disparaging anybody else. But when you can control that kind of person that goes and signs up for a country, and you take that person's patriotism and their willingness to fight and serve and lay down their life for a nation, what happens then? What is your military might at that point? Not to say that there aren't heroes and valorous people in our inner cities. There are many, many, many of them. But 17% of a nation's population supplies, for time immemorial, almost 44% of our armed forces. That's a big deal.
It's huge.
And these rural towns, I've watched rural America die my whole life. And I guess I just finally got sick of it.
Yeah.
I'm to the point in my life that's like, hey, you guys, this has been done. Speaking of political, this has been done by both sides for decades.
Please. Yeah.
And both sides
Yeah.
are to blame in this thing.
Yeah.
But it's time, you're exactly right. It's time to lay all that aside and fix it. We've got a short amount of time to fix it. We have a short window, and it's time we get on that galloping horse all together and we go.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah. And, you're talking about politics, you're talking about what people pay attention to. And a lot of people's focus is on the federal level, like you said, and talking about just like the control and the state of things. And people are always talking about freedom and all of these things, and which is great. But I think there's still such a disconnect, and there shouldn't be, of how the word freedom and liberty and whatever you want to attach to that, and our food supply, our basic abilities to provide for ourselves, to take care of ourselves. And what the biggest danger that I have seen so much, and that so many people just, around that, you talk to people every day, and people don't seem to be afraid of or see the dangers that are coming, because they go to the grocery store and they get their food, and they go and they've got everything they need. And it's like a country that cannot provide its own food, local communities that are not providing their own food sources, when we are outsourcing most everything from other countries, and we've got meat and produce and things being brought in from, we don't even know, half the time where the food in the grocery store has come from. And then we're Xing out all of our local producers, all of our, the producers in our country. That is a huge threat to our ability to take care of ourselves, to even be able to fend for ourselves. I mean, it is such a huge, I think the focus is on so many things that are distractions that keep us from really focusing on, can we provide for ourselves as American people, whatever state you live in? Can we provide for ourselves? Do we, talking about water rights? And Laura, you mentioned the basic things like food and water. It's like, what are we growing? Where are we growing it? And so much like our grain, we don't even, and you may have more stats on this, Claire, but I know so much wheat that used to be grown in the United States. I don't think that production is near what it used to be. And, you know, we're importing grains, we are exporting. We have fields that are full of corn and soybeans and things that are being exported to China. It's not being grown for American consumption. And that's how many acres of land that is being utilized to help and to, you know, to deliver to another country, not our own. And so it is a huge threat to, and I've heard you mention before, national sovereignty, and it is a huge threat to our entire way of life, because if you can't provide for yourself, if you can't feed yourself, then you are beholden to someone else to feed you and to provide for you. And there's no liberty in that.
Yeah, it's, you know, and going to the import-export deal on your question, that has been a long time in the making. And you can even make the argument that really that all began back after World War II. The American farmer and rancher has, since our existence, raised the highest quality products of agriculture products anywhere in the world. And so after World War II, when all these other nations were destroyed and they couldn't farm and they couldn't feed themselves, our exports became a high value market item because A, other nations needed them, and B, nobody could grow it like we could. And so that's kind of where we started. Around that time too, in the 60s, when John F. Kennedy was unfortunately assassinated, we were starting the program right before he got into office. We had started this USA Aid, where millions and billions of our dollars were going to foreign countries to develop them to become agriculture juggernauts.
Independent. Mm-hmm.
And these countries, and I understand why we did it. We did that as a means to, in the Cold War, we were trying to develop allies, because if we weren't going to develop allies, then these other nations who we were warring against were going to go down there and develop these allies. So we really were kind of painted into a corner. It's either, hey, we do it or somebody else do it. But in the meantime, these nations have not been our allies. And they've taken our money, and they've taken what we sent them universities. This is a whole big report I'm working on as well. They took our university dollars. They took our university scientists. They took our governmental taxpayer dollars. They took our knowledge and our free entrepreneurial thought to help develop these wastelands that basically these other countries were socked with. And our American ingenuity developed those countries to become the agricultural powerhouses that they are. Well, now we didn't develop those relationships. We didn't keep them, whatever the cause was. And now they are our competitors. And so this import-export deal is incredibly messy. Agriculture itself is incredibly complex. It's convoluted in many ways. But yes, our American ag products raised by our American producers should always have priority over any other nation. And that's just where I am. And people, you know, you can have an opinion about that one way or the other, but that's a basic fundamental. American farmers and American ranchers products first. Yeah. In America, or in any scenario that's going to make us come out on top, because gone are the days when we can afford to lose more farmers and ranchers. That day is over. We need every single farmer and rancher we currently have. We have to stop the bleeding. We have to keep them on the land, keep them producing. And if you know, because there's a lot of other arguments that, well, why are we growing so much corn and soybeans? That argument holds no water with me. The matter of the fact is, if we want to change our crop kinds in this nation, fine. I'm not opposed to it. But we're going to stop the bleeding, and we're not going to force these farmers and ranchers out of business in that transition. We're a smart nation. We're still a wealthy nation, and we can make a very smart and wise pivot if that's where it needs to be. But no more undercutting the American farmer and rancher. And a lot of foreign countries are doing just that.
Yeah. Do you have any stats on the percentages of what crops stay, or whether it's meat, whether it's produce, what actually stays, what's grown in the United States that feeds the United States versus what is grown outside the United States that's feeding the United States?
Oh, gosh. That is a very complex, there's not one particular stat I could point to, and I will go do more research and see what I can come up with there. But I know in terms of the beef industry, we import a massive amount of beef, whether it's in the box or on the live hoof in this nation. And then our superior American beef gets exported in massive amounts to Taiwan, to Japan, where they love to eat raw beef. I mean, they demand a high quality beef and they can't raise it there. No offense, but we raise the best beef in the world. And so our packers know that, so they can export our amazing beef product at a higher price to a foreign country that wants to pay for it because they can't grow it. So it makes our American beef go foreign, overseas. Now we have a lot of direct to consumer ranchers coming into that space, and I'm all for that space and I support it. But we need to feed 350 million Americans our amazing beef, our American beef. And that needs to be the priority. And it still should command a premium because our American ranchers have to pay the premium for the input costs it costs them to grow that beef. And our packers still, they're not paying American ranchers the premium that they're going to get when they export our American beef. And so anyway, you do have a lot of the Mexican border is a hot topic right now because we have a lot of live cattle coming across that are raised cheap in Mexico. They're coming across and they're being bought by huge cattle feeders. And then those cattle grow here, but they are bought cheaper. You can buy Mexican cattle cheaper than you can buy live American cattle. Mm-hmm. And then those are put into our income stream. So many of our American genetics have been exported to Mexico. They're not bad looking cattle that come across. And that's the whole thing of this. Our American genetics have been exported to Mexico and other countries where they can raise the product cheaper. And then they're bought back at a cheaper rate, fed here and sold into our food supply. Meanwhile, our American ranchers are the ones that are undercut by that whole process. It's our American genetics. And this isn't even getting into, there's a lot of scientists in our country that they want to continue to give foreign countries the genetic advantage over our beef producers. Our beef producers are the ones that have toiled for years and years getting the genetics of the American beef animal where they are. Then they're undercut when they're exported to foreign countries. Now these scientists want to undercut those same ranchers by helping, I don't know, let's pick a random country, Argentinian ranchers, helping them genetically modify their animals for more heat tolerance. Well, Americans didn't get to have that. We had to be out there day in, day out as two eyeballs and prayers to God. Hey, God, help me figure out how to get more heat tolerance in my herd. We had to go year after year after year, seeing what works. Oh, well, that worked. Oh, that didn't work. That's how the American rancher had to come up with good beef genetics. And now our own scientists want to help these foreign countries inject heat tolerance genetics into their genome overnight. No, thanks. I don't think so. Those are some of the piercing the veil facts that the American people have no clue about, and that we are going to take aggressive action. So,
yeah. And meanwhile, while it's killing the market for us, it's also ruining the beef. I mean, you're only gonna GMO these cattle to a point where there's no substantial, like the whole thing that gives them the health factor and all that is just going to get super broke down. And I mean, that's already happening, so it's just really grotesque. And I don't fully understand because I don't do this, but I know there's a weird relationship with the actual packers. Like, to me, it's mind-boggling to me that we ship so much food that I have a hard time understanding how it's cheaper. When you have a product that requires refrigeration, this, that, and the other thing, you're going to ship it away to be packaged, only to then ship it back. Maybe I'm just on the slow bus. I'm just saying, though, what is the deal with the packaging and the packing and why can't we do it here? Why is there so much of that going on?
Well, so ideas? We have, we do most of our packing here. We do import some box beef, but not a whole lot. But most of it is the live cattle are here and they're terminated here, and then they're boxed and either shipped out to a foreign country or raised or shipped here locally. Doesn't mean that we're shipping American beef within our own country. But what is happening there, you know, the big argument that everyone wants to make is, well, America doesn't have enough meat for grind. Grind is the sausage stuff, the you know, all your hot dogs, all your mixed beef that, you know, or mixed meats that are sold. You know, there's a huge market for that in this country. There's a lot of argument to say, well, we don't have enough grind for hamburger, you know, and our cattle numbers are low. Yes, but they're low because through bad policy, decade after decade, we've driven our ranchers out of business. There's no reason that in the future we can't make our own grind here. We have dairy cattle, we have all kinds of cattle that could make up for all this argument of why we import this beef. So the packers say, well, we have to import Mexican beef because America doesn't produce enough cattle for the grind, for the lower level products. And that's the argument they've gotten away with for decades and decades. Then their lobbyists went to DC and lobbied, and they got our country of origin labeling taken away. So now we get to import Mexican cattle because of the grind. And then now, because of the lobbying, oh, we don't have to tell anybody if it's American or Mexican or Argentinian or Brazilian or God knows what, El Salvadorian. We don't have to tell anybody. We just get to ship the cattle in for cheap, and we get to decide, oh, hey, that's a choice steak right there. Well, we get to have a inferior steak imported into this country live on the hoof in most cases. Yes, we do boxed beef, but either way, that foreign country steak that's probably way inferior, that's given ranchers in America a bad rap, those packers get to import it. They get to say, inspected by USDA. They even get to say product of USA because they broke it down here. You can ship in frozen carcasses from other countries, to your point. Yes, you can ship in a frozen carcass. You can break that carcass down into steaks, hamburger, chuck roast, whatever. As long as you break it down here, you can label it as product of the USA. And it wasn't grown here. It wasn't fed here. It wasn't born here. It didn't even die here. It was, all of that was done in a foreign country. And yes, they can ship it in cheaper than half because they get to undercut the American rancher. And those things need to change immediately. And I know that Harriet Hageman had the amazing, I think she's a senator or representative. She took Liz Cheney's seat in Wyoming. I can't remember what Liz was. But Harriet Hageman has a piece of legislation in the House, I guess. So she would be a representative, where she's hoping to bring back it's called MCOOL, mandatory country of origin labeling. And I really hope we get that done, because at least that's the first step in educating the American people that, hey, here's a steak, but it came from Argentina or it came from Central America. Here's another steak that came from America. And the dirty little secret is that everyone knows that American people want to eat American beef. They can go out and see a ranching operation like yours, Sarah. They can go out and see how those cattle are raised. They're raised on the grass. They're not all crammed into these places like in other countries. American people want it, and everybody knows that the American people want American beef. And that's the dirty little secret, the quiet part that no one wants to say out loud, because American ranchers should have the stronghold over our own market. But we've been sold out, and it's time that stopped.
Yeah. And it's just one of the many industries. But to your point, and why we're here today is, like, can we just drill down on this being one of the most important ones? Like, if we can't, I don't want to talk about making cars right now until we got a cheeseburger from here. I mean, I don't know why this is so not. And again, to your point about the place of origin, that's fairly recent too, that they took that away. Because I know, I remember that helping me be a conscientious purchaser when I would, call me a label reader, when I would notice things on burger, like, you're getting the organic grass-fed situation. And then at some point you notice beef from, and there's like 5 different countries on there.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, now I want to know which country has the big mixing bowl. Where is this mixing bowl situation happening? Here. That's what I heard. And so I'm like, what is literally happening right now? So it's like the big burger bowl, and we're just like, oh, Argentina over here, you got this, and all these places, Australia. I mean, I remember seeing word like, what? And I think, like, I can't be alone in wondering, flagging that as a very big question mark.
Absolutely. It's,
and it's like to a point of even a health situation. So like, if all that stuff's coming in here, we're just mixing it up. Oh, well, God forbid, if somebody gets sick off this lot of beef that's going to be recalled or whatever, where it's going down. Who's getting the bad press on this.
Yeah.
And, it's just going to be like, it's going to fall to the chef. It's going to fall to the mixer, which is completely irrational.
Right.
And so I just, people need to get more aware. You did a reel recently that really, I thought, where you were speaking to this, talking about how people are urban areas are completely disconnected from what is happening rurally. And that is a huge deal. And of course, I wear a lot of tinfoil tiaras over here. They don't want to bridge the gap between rural and urban. And they've made it very, very outward that they've made that decisive wall even go up. I would contend. Yeah. And so it has become like, it's one of those mini groupings again, the us versus thems, the city folk, country mouse versus city mouse, the this, the that. Mm-hmm. And that was intentional. But I think that, this is a really great thing that you're doing. And because I feel like using your artistry base, you know what I'm saying? You have that to work off of, which is fantastic. And I think there needs to be more of this. When it's beautiful is when somebody like you is doing this, because it's authentic. And this is one of the many embodiments I was speaking to in the introduction about how, these things are so important. And I, for one, will get off sometimes on celebrities spouting off about every damn thing that's in a headline. I can't take it, And it's just like, but then you got the ones who are really like, some of them are just paid operatives. Let's just be honest. Other ones are literally like legit, like they legit had a disease, or their kid did, or this or that. They're picking up an authentic, sword for a cause, and using their platform for good. And I'm 100% behind all that.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I feel like you doing this is coming into an area that very much demands the attention. And I feel like your artistry can help bridge that, because you get to go out there and sing your stories. And guess what you get to do in between singing? You get to talk, and you get to actually meet people, and you actually get to go into cities with your country message. Oh my gosh, this country mouse is coming up in here. And I know you even mentioned on one podcast, talking about how the record label sort of really wanted you to downplay the whole thing, that you were an authentic cowgirl. Kind of made me mad. All right. Not surprised though. Let's just say.
There was definitely an effort, wanting me to dress a certain, not a certain way. I mean, I was told to dress how they wanted me to dress, and was very highly suggested. Of course, you have to be a little sensitive about that, but very highly suggested I get to the gym and work on my thighs. Mm-hmm. And because there was another female artist that was, clearly working for them. And I just was like, you know what? I'm from a farm. I love how, I can probably I'm a jeans and t-shirt kind of girl, but
my thighs can push a truck out of the snow. Okay, I'm just saying.
Well, I don't know about that, but they're definitely, I'm farm tough and thick, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just a normal person. And
that's it.
Waylon Jennings would have said the same thing, I feel like. So,
Well, and I just wanted to pull that out because I found it very ironic
Yeah.
that even something with country music, which is supposed to, theoretically, the folk, this all came from the roots of rural people. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just not
Absolutely.
pretend this was made up in an urban studio one day.
No.
The roots of country, from blues, from all that has emerged from real people
Yes.
on real ground,
Absolutely.
telling stories.
Yeah.
And this is what it is.
Our whole genre, you're exactly right. It was made by the people out there living the life. Blues music was made by people in the fields and picking cotton and being passed down their gospel songs from their families and their generations, and forming that into something new. It was made by, country music was made by people out there in the rural areas living that life. And you're exactly right. It wasn't a caricature.
No, exactly. And from that, we got more kind of an Americana type. Again, though, storytelling based, authenticity to the songwriting part of it. And now that industry is just flooded with a bunch of city posers. And so you would think, though, that their base that still locks down a lot of the country music as a genre is still not city folks. But here comes along some authentic artists who actually have stories to tell about what it's like, this and that and the other thing, which, there just goes to show your little 17%. We don't care. A little 17%. You're all cute over there and everything. But we need to kind of jump on this merging of the pop and the this and the that. And God, it's gross. And listen, I was in the music beast. I get it. And it's very familiar to my friends who were in Nashville and got a big deal, and they ended up just, it just was gross. They couldn't take it. So I've seen this happen to friends, and I admire anybody who disassembles, because that's the real deal. And see, that's what people are searching for. Sarah and I are convinced, in the age of fakery, that the authenticity is just going to be just a default.
Yeah.
It's just a default haven of where to go, because if people can't even detect that it's authentic anymore, they'll detect that it's different. Because right now, speaking of grinder meals, we're just grinding everything up into like this, just really not a very substantive, nothing has substantial form anymore, including our art. So it's a beautiful platform you have, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say there's so many facades, and I love your spirit of boldness, Claire, that you are using what is so important to you and what you have lived to go out there and speak about this and to use this with your artistry. And you're not afraid to bust up these facades and say, hey, this is not legit. This is not real. Let me show you what is. And you're doing that in all forms of your life, which shows your truth and your honesty. And I believe that you're very transparent, and we need more people like you. And I want our audience to really listen to what's being said today, because everyone, we all have a voice in our communities and with the people whose lives that we impact. And, we don't have to have a big platform to speak like this and to make a difference and to really make an impact and change in things that are going on, if we just use our voice to speak to what's important to us and to do the research like what you're doing. And I think the example that you're setting is so powerful and so important. And I can't thank you enough for that, because we need more of this to, snowball forward. No pun intended with the ice outside.
I totally agree. Everyone must use their own voice. And you're exactly right. Your voice is no less important just because you may not have a big social media following.
Mm-hmm.
If that's where you feel called to use your voice, fine. But that doesn't have to be where you use your voice. And you're exactly right. We've got to have voices in our local communities, watching over our local lawmakers and people bringing whatever the local issues are, because that's how we can maintain control of our own nation, is if we each do it locally. And so I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's truth. I mean, that's just true. And everybody thinks everything has to be on a grand scale, and it doesn't. It just needs to be seen by somebody that empowers them. And that's just how this works. No one wants to be the first to stand out or stand up, and they wait till there's a movement. And sometimes people don't even realize. But at this point, when we're talking about food and private property, and we're talking about some basic things that don't turn us back into the days of feudalism, that, the line has to stop here. And this has to be, there's only one choice, but to come to the recognition that this has nothing to do with political colors. I think that is probably what's killing us mostly, of people, unless their team is colorizing it as something they need to champion or be against or whatever, they sit it out until the big old group comes along. Listen, we're being screwed by every one of them. All right, get it through your heads. I don't know why people don't get what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with right now a literal unbelievability to me, which looks like somebody that was so championing patriotism is going to be the one trying to take guns. I guarantee, like, they will use every single. All of this is just each one chips at it until the perfect one's in there to just crack it open, and then that'll get shipped at. Listen, there's no hands without blood on them in our government. All right, we need the people to see this and get over themselves and care about food. Can we just care about food? Okay, I tell you what, I think the two broads and you, we need to take a trip over to London right now.
Okay, let's do it.
I think we need to go and talk to those farmers over there. All right.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
So we should be reporting from there to maybe, because the news really, I don't think, is doing so much of that over here.
No.
BBC is probably even playing it down. All right.
Yeah.
But it's out there for sure. But I don't think it's on the main. I don't think they want anybody to get ideas over here. Well, we saw the farmer situation in Canada.
Yeah.
And then we also saw how tracking works. Mm-hmm. And we also saw how digital ID will work when they can just cut off credit cards. What is happening right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Why didn't everybody lose their freaking minds on that?
Mm-hmm.
That people were still arguing over, well, they don't have the right to blah, 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 and this and that and the other thing. It's like, oh my God, the fact that you can make two sides out of the fact that they have food is unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
But now what you see in England is kind of unbelievable. And I don't know if people are aware, but those farmers there have been protesting for, I think we're in week 14 now, maybe week 13, something like that. These sons of guns are blocking the distribution paths. They ain't coming off of it, I don't think, anytime soon. And meanwhile, this government guy over there, what a loser. Okay, so his big thing is just to wait it out. So he thinks that they can outwait. All right. And the thing is he's like the worst guy in history. Like, he's probably the most unpopular prime minister in the history of England at this point. Yeah. I see a pattern, by the way. But anyway, so he's like going just, wait it out, kind of downplaying it, just waiting it out. Meanwhile, they got 68% of the people, is what I read. 68% of the people in England who are not able to get food right now are siding up with the farmers. All right. Because it's a land grab.
Yeah.
They've made it so that they've got a death tax that they put on land that is so astronomical that it's forcing a lot. Huh?
We do too.
I know. Well, they made it so high that it's forcing a lot of farmers to sell, because they're seeing the pattern and they're like, well, if we wait to sell this when my son has it or my we're even going to get even less. So there's a lot of sell-off happening over there.
Right.
Undercutting completely what the land is worth.
Right.
Meanwhile, the farmers are just going, can you not see what's happening here? And we're not going to lose this land. Mm-hmm. So they're driving every farm equipment, machinery,
spray manure, the whole deal.
Listen, they're just blocking distribution places.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about blocking ports now too. So very interesting.
Well, just as a sidebar, go ahead. Sorry.
Have if anybody can starve people out, you better remember it can be the farmers.
I guess.
We might want to take better care of our
Yeah, take
farmers.
better care.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want a bunch of pissed off farmers. Okay, I
No.
really don't. I really don't want that.
No, yeah.
It's a
Take-
bad
well, we
scene
need to
over
take
there.
care of our supply. Like, who's providing our food? If we're not providing it personally for ourselves, who's providing? We need to take care of our own people, like you're saying. As a sidebar about UK politics, just as you are on that, I don't know if anybody is aware of this or following this at all, and I don't have a ton of information on it. My oldest son is following this, but they have delayed, and this is going on, I think, months now. They have delayed elections in multiple areas of the UK. Not, I don't think it's a full out cancel, but they keep pushing it back. They're supposed to have all of these elections
What?
because Reform UK Party is so on the rise. So you've got what's Labour Party and what's the other one? They're the two big parties in England. Okay,
The Tories.
are so on the downfall of
Good.
popularity, and this Reform UK is coming in, and they're actually taking seats. So where the elections have been held, they're taking seats, and I think the threat was it was going to completely change Parliament and just a lot of these political seats over in the UK, and so they have just continually they're delaying elections all over the UK. And I think that, just as a sidebar on UK politics, that's very interesting. And then what you're talking about, Lori, and what's going on over there, and just kind of seeing that, I think, worldwide, there's a lot of people that are seeing the changes that need to be made and seeing that what's happening to the average person, the average family, is not okay. And we're all kind of in a very similar boat of, like you mentioned, feudalism. And we've mentioned that on several shows recently. We have a modern day version of feudalism. We have a very, very less than 1% at the top that has a lot of power and a lot of financial power as well worldwide. That is, it's the control that is there, and the back to, like you mentioned it already, you will own nothing and you will like it, is what is constantly being shown to us. And with that, I'd love to get your take, Claire, on property rights, personal property rights, and why they are important. Like, I think we all know that on some level, and some people may disagree and like, well, it's going to be better. The government's going to take care of us, and universal basic income will come in and it'll be fine. Like, I don't know where we have such a wide audience that's we have people here in the United States and across the world that listen to the show. And so wherever anybody may be listening from, I would love to get your take on just why we need to protect our rights to own property, to own things, and why that's so important, and what can happen when these things are taken away.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of friends who are on the opposite side of the political spectrum, if you will, as me. And there are a lot of solutions, like always socialism is trotted out as a solution, that, we'll be fine and we'll all be in it together and we'll all be fair and equal. But what no one talks about is that there's not one example in history where socialism lasted as long as the United States. There's not one example where socialism created an environment for a nation to be as wealthy as it is. Now, do we have problems? Yeah, we do. But the solution is not this idea that we will all share everything, we will own nothing, and then we'll all be happier for it. That's just not the way the human soul, that's not the way the human is made up. We're not programmed like that. And what no one wants to talk about is that no matter how little you have in socialism, in socialist societies, no matter how little you have, there's always someone with less. And what you have will be taken from you and delegated to someone who has less down the line. Everyone is always sold this idea that, we'll just take it all back from the billionaires. No, you won't, because they have the resources to keep their money, to keep their assets, and you don't. That is what made America so strong, and what is so alarming about the middle class being hollowed out, because we as the middle class used to own 75% of the wealth in this nation. Mm-hmm. The average ordinary family, we possessed the wealth, and we didn't have this 1% owning most of our wealth and then everybody else. And so they've gotten the middle class hollowed out. That should be the red flag already. When that happens, you and the private property rights issue comes up. Here's what I like to tell everybody. Right now in America, everyone owns, virtually everyone. Now, this is not including all of the Gen Zers and younger who are possibly never going to own their own home, which is something that definitely needs to get reversed. But virtually right now, everyone in America owns some kind of private property, whether it's a motorcycle, whether that's the only thing that you own privately. If you own a car, that's private property. If you own a blow dryer, that's private property. So we can say that virtually everyone in America owns some kind of private property. When those rights are taken away, when you take away, it always starts with the landowners, because those are those are an easy target.
Those are the big assets. Yeah.
So when those private property rights are taken away, there's a lot of cheering at times because everyone else is so down, and it's terrible. But it will start to come. If you have the land taken away, okay, we get the land taken away, boom, check mark. Then you're talking about housing. Oh, okay. Well, there goes your house. And people don't start to realize that, hey, when it starts getting eroded here with the land rights, then homes are next, then cars, then motorcycles, then name your piece of property. And you do not have free societies with a very few amount of people owning all the assets and everyone else renting or being serfs. We've already seen that throughout history for time immemorial. And that's why America got founded, because the kings and the lords and all of the top 1%ers, they owned it all. And everyone else was a subject of the king or a slave or a serf. And it never worked out well, because the American spirit, the human spirit, wants to be free to live, to be the decider of their destiny. And that's not taught anymore. But every single person on this planet should have the freedom to be the decider of their own destiny. And when you start to take away private property rights, you start to take away the power for the individual to be the decider of their own destiny.
Yeah, and you
well
literally,
said.
yeah, well said. And you literally are taking away a piece of people's souls. Like you're taking away their ambition to better for their family, their dreams. You're into a real private zone here now. And that's the crushing blow that they want. They want everybody to be not fightful. They want everybody to be just like down and out. And they're doing a fine job. I mean, they're just doing an excellent job. And they're already after automobiles. I mean, you can't own an F-150 pickup in England. Are you kidding me right now? You can't own certain vehicles in lots of parts of the world right now. It's sold under the old climate, blah, whatever. And now the interim is the energy non-efficient cars called electric that now will have the kill switches in cars. So you could buy a car, but we're going to let you know when we think you're just driving it too much, or maybe you're crossing too many state lines or whatever. And these boneheads actually approved that. They actually approved that. They think it's an okay idea to be fine with the kill switches on cars. Yeah. What are we doing right now? Okay. Yeah. So we got no land left with no farmers producing stuff. And even if there was food in the store, we can't drive to get there anymore. I don't understand how people aren't putting more of this together. They're just so, maybe it's just they've done the old, we're so brainwashed, and they throw out the propaganda so fast, and they throw out the newest, freakiest, scariest story. That then everybody rushes to that as their attention. They forgot what really they were kind of had a central theme about what they really want to. People don't even know which arms they want to pick up anymore, right?
Yeah, I think.
And it's.
Oh, go ahead.
We're just confused. We're a confused bunch of humans.
Well, I think we're just very distracted, and it's very sad because we have to be, because it's become so hard to make a living in this nation. I don't blame people for thinking, oh, it's just farmers and ranchers. You know what? They'll have to fend for themselves because I'm too busy having to work 4 jobs to keep food on the table and keep my house paid for, or save up to buy a house, or whatever it is. The American middle class has become so distracted, sadly, by having to figure out how to survive in their own nation.
Yeah.
And we're fixing that. I do believe we've got fixes on the way, but I'm talking leading up to the past year. I can see why people don't have a grip or a grasp on where we are with agriculture. And because most people, and I went pretty viral for explaining the Farm Bill, which I'm glad to see we now have some action on, but I was one of the first people to truly break down the Farm Bill for the American people to help them understand why farmers don't live on subsidies, because that's another flat out lie that's been perpetuated on the American people about farmers and ranchers. Oh, well, they're just a bunch of crybabies because they live on subsidies. No, we don't. The subsidies, first of all, I think only make up, I don't have this number in front of me, but it's somewhere in my stack. The subsidies in the Farm Bill are only 4%. And finally the word's gotten out, which I'm going to take credit. I was
Go girl.
Do it.
To break it down for people.
Yeah.
And I've known that my whole life. And I'm like, why isn't anybody else doing this? Why isn't anybody else telling the truth about the Farm Bill? I don't know. I guess I will. And so now we've got it. The word is out that Coca-Cola and Frito-Lay and all these huge corporations, they get subsidized off the taxpayer through the Farm Bill, through SNAP, through food stamps. I don't begrudge anyone in America getting food stamps. Yes. Do I think there's a lot of fraud in that system? Yeah, I do. But I'm so grateful that we are a charitable nation. Has that program been taken advantage of? Yeah. Coca-Cola doesn't need to get $9 billion every year off the backs of the citizens in this country. So the Farm Bill is $428 billion. The last one we passed in 2018.
It's gross.
$328 billion goes directly to food stamp recipients. It's money loaded onto EBT cards that you go to the grocery store or whatever store takes food stamps, and that's your money. 428 billion total, 328 billion food stamps only. Then the rest of the $100 billion goes to funding all of USDA, which I'm totally for. There's a lot of chicanery that goes on in USDA that we still haven't weeded out. I'm not hard to find. Somebody can call me and I'll tell you exactly where those places are, because we haven't really gotten them weeded out yet. It funds FSA. All of the loans that they give to producers, which we very much need, that money is all of the loan money that's funded, so that our loan officers who work for FSA can go out and help farmers and ranchers, and they do a damn good job. Then that goes to fund NRCS, conservation programs, and then school lunch programs is in that $100 billion, which I'm totally for. Our children, sometimes in rural America, the only time they eat is when they go to school. And I grew up with kids that I knew dang well the only time they ate was when they went to school. And I get emotional thinking about that. I totally support that. But then you come down the line and your subsidies are about maybe 4%. I think it's less than $9 billion total out of the Farm Bill, not per year, but total out of the Farm Bill. And so a lot of people have had this misunderstanding, and that's why they think, oh, the farmers and ranchers are fine because they get subsidized out the wazoo, but they're not told the detailed truth. And that's what we're all about, in my soon to be new organization, I think. And just my platform in general, whether I do an organization or not, but my platform is trying to educate the American people to those truths that I've known my whole life, but nobody was really talking about. And I'm glad that now as a nation, we finally are. And R.F. Kennedy Jr. did a great job of saying, hey, no more, we're taking Coca-Cola off the food stamp list. And I was like, amen. I'm so proud of that. So anyway.
Well, listen, I mean, in listening to that, and God, it's just like this, yes, everything boils down to education and a lack of it, for they will perish without knowledge. And I think when people hear a Farm Bill and they see that kind of money being disputed, blah, 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 I mean, you're just going, I'm stuck on the words Farm Bill.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on the word farm. Is it wrong for me? And what you just told me is, I don't even know why it's called a farm bill.
It should
There's hardly anything that has to do with farms in the damn thing.
exactly.
What
It
are we
should
talking
be
about right
a
now?
food stamp bill and the food stamp should have to. And here's the other lie that
That's
they
a social service situation. This
It
has
is.
nothing to do with farmers.
no.
Oh my
But
God.
here's the other problem too. Congress is big problem in all of this because they passed the farm bill. And what our congressmen and women have been doing for decades is coming back home to our local areas and saying, well, you ought to be thankful that the food stamps are in the farm bill. Otherwise, the farm bill wouldn't pass. BS.
Wow.
They
Wow.
lie about every bill
Wow.
that's there now, which is why they pad these bills. They give them names that they think we'll all agree with, and hardly any of it has to do with the title. You know, they sneak all these things in. I'm so for the one sentence bills. I don't know. Massey's been on there. There's a couple of them, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Why are we having 1,800 page bills? That's ridiculous. It just in the 1,800 pages, they should just call them all trickery bills.
Mhm.
Trickery bills. If it's this long and there's that much in it, then the point of the title probably isn't even being addressed. And I think you just made that point. I'm so against these long, convoluted bills. And these people don't even read them. They don't even read
And
them.
they know that. They know people aren't going to read that.
Yeah.
And then they're going to market it a certain way. They're going to put a fun spin on it and go, look, it's for this. It's great. You're going to love it. And then, nobody
And they
raises
believe
cane.
it. They're about as naive
Yeah.
as anybody. What do we, can we just have farmers that represent in Congress now? What are we doing right now? There's literally no common sense and it's all just greed, but we're all humans and this is how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humans have a long history of mucking everything up.
Thing about it is that, when those congressmen and women would come home and they would say that to those in those meetings, to those constituents, of which my parents were there in those meetings when all that was happening, because it's been happening for time immemorial. The thing about it is that the food stamps would not pass if it weren't for the farmers. And we as farmers and ranchers are so busy trying to survive in this terrible economic thing that we live in, because we don't live in a free market society when it comes to agriculture, and that's a whole other episode. But we've been so busy, we haven't fought back, and it's time to fight back. And it's like, you know what, sir or madam, your food stamps wouldn't pass if it weren't for our farms and ranches, because the American people at heart, they do want to support their farms and ranches.
Absolutely.
They just have been lied to for so long. That's part of the problem we're in. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah. So.
Absolutely. And
you
yay for you.
Today. I'm sorry.
Woo, no, we love
This is
it.
what
this
we
is
do
so
here.
important.
You're prime too broad material. Are you kidding me right now? This is a club, We got
You're our honorary broad now. You are the farm broad, farm
Yes.
and rancher broad.
I just admire people who take the time to do some research and come back up and share it. This is the whole thing. And you see it on social media all the time. Everybody wants to be the smartest guy in the room, but no one's taking it, they just want to take it to a comment. It's like, if you're so self-righteous about it, and if you believe so much about what it is you're telling me, and by the way, it does look like you've actually researched at least one side of a situation, come on with it. Make it your post, put your name on it, be bold, and there's just very little of that. So you listen, this is what it is. We can't all be right about things all the time. But when we start eliminating people that have done first of all, have some experience to know what they're talking about, but also see patterns, like pattern seeing people are in a short supply, it seems like, kind of. And then you care enough to spend time to research. Do people think that we're getting paid to research these things, to be able to talk about them? Because Sarah, Claire, I don't know what you're racking in right now. Chink-a-chink-a-ching.
No.
Okay.
No, I do this because I love it. And
exactly. And I have years worth of going down rabbit holes and stuff. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm not doing this to what am I doing this for? To satisfy my own fears? No, because it's just scarier the deeper I go. No, what am I doing it for? Self-aggrandizement? I don't think so. What? I don't even know. I got to share what I learned. If something alarms me, I figure it's got to alarm somebody else.
Yes.
Well, I think one of the first tools, one of the first things that we can do in working towards a solution is education. We have to educate ourselves and other people. This is where we begin. This is how it starts. And I mean, I think a lot of people in powerful places are counting on the ignorance of people of not being educated on certain topics so that they can continue, some of these schemes and ploys that we see happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have to say, and maybe part of it's survival for farmers, and hopefully they're not getting hoodwinked by it, because I know grants are being thrown at them for sure. But the sort of agri-entertainment dollars that are happening, and where you're seeing like pumpkin patches, this, that, and the other thing. Some of these people are doing a really great job of being very instructive, and where you're getting the city folk to come outside the bubble of the city and will take their kids. I think some of the younger kids today will be more informed about some of this stuff and possibly inspired than of the last couple generations, to be honest, because if you live in a city, you don't know farmers. I lived in Nebraska growing up, and I went to school with a lot of farmer kids. But I didn't live on a farm. Yeah. But I lived in farm culture. This whole state is embedded. It's in the culture of it. And that comes with a certain common sense, folksy kind of thing. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm very grateful for it. But I think, as cities have gotten bigger and everything's been industrialized and everything's been convenient and everything's just been automized, there's not a lot of opportunity. City folks aren't going out and detasseling corn, which I at least did for a couple of years when I was a kid. But okay. Don't blame me if you don't. But what's your position on that? Because I think farmers are trying to do a thing where, and honestly, quite frankly, I don't even think that comes at a sacrifice. Now you got to figure out parking for people and, liability for if a kid gets this, that, or the other thing. It comes with things, which is why I think then the grants start coming. Then it gets a little scary for me. But what's your opinion of that?
So two things. I don't really have an opinion of the agri-entertainment space because that's just not been my world. But I'll just tell you, I'm not the expert on all of that. I can get into it and research it, and maybe I should. But to your second question or second point, and I think you were trying to ask me this earlier, Sarah, and I got off on a tangent, and I apologize. But this whole separation between urban areas and rural areas, or even small town kids and farm kids, the separation is very dangerous, in my opinion, as a society, because I grew up with kids. I was the farm kid. My sister and I were the farm girls through and through. We were moving tractors, farming fields 60 miles away from our house as young girls. And, there'd be neighboring farmers kind of keeping an eye on us. But I mean, if we broke down, we were having to figure it out. My dad was a phone call away, but he was sometimes 2 hours away, and so we kind of had to figure things out at the moment. And I remember this disconnect between us and other kids that we went to school with that lived in teeny tiny towns. The biggest town in my entire county is less than 3,000 people. So we're talking about very, very small towns, but yet the insulation that has happened. I remember my folks trying to hire kids from these small towns, and they would come out and have no clue about just anything, be on their phones, have no idea how to work. And they were doing very, very simple jobs. And not that farmers and ranchers aren't above showing somebody how to work, but there was just this this kid may as well have been from Detroit. You know what I mean? And they're from 30 miles away in a teeny tiny town of less than 3,000 people. There's no reason that our rural communities and our farmers and our urban communities and our farmers and ranchers can't all be like this and interconnected in some capacity. Yeah. Does the work suck? Yeah. That's why every American should support the people who want to do the work, like myself, like millions of others in agriculture right now, because it does suck and it's not for everyone, and that's okay. But that reason right there, if people had their eyes just a window into it, and so I guess
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm for the agri entertainment companies out there. If that's the step we have to start connecting people again, where we've been so disconnected, fine, so be it. I don't know
Mhm.
about all the grants and all of that. I know that there's always a give and take. But we must restore the connection between
Mhm.
agriculture and our rural or urban areas.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
100%. I think we all agree. And Sarah,
Yeah.
you've got a few in your county. And I know though that they bring people from the cities, now it's just like it's an Instagram thing. Let's just be honest. Okay. You got to take your kid now for the Instagram pumpkin shot.
That's right.
And the pumpkin can't come from the bin outside Walmart. You got to go and get the
Yes.
authentic pumpkin patch, or the background needs to be kind of country. All right. So yay Instagram. Okay. But I know some of them go well beyond just supplying the pumpkins. They got instructional situations
A lot of
on.
educational opportunities in
Yes,
that too. I do love to see that. There's
I
a
do
lot
too.
of that. And
Yeah.
in talking about all of this, I'd love to circle back around because I think what you're talking about, the connecting everyone back together. It is so important. And I just want to circle back around to what we talked about earlier, because I want to reiterate for our listeners, Claire, the importance, the profound importance of protecting our food supply and our farmers and our ranchers, why that's so important, and why, if you do live in the city, if you are in an urban area, why should you care? Why do we need to protect our farmers and ranchers? Why do we need to protect our homegrown food supply? Why this is so important? And I don't think we can reiterate it enough, because the disconnect is there, and because I don't think that people fully realize the danger situation that we're in if we get to a place where we are not providing our own food here. And if we lose, like you've talked about so many times, and I want to encourage everyone to go onto your Instagram, go onto any of your socials, and listen to some of these talks that you're doing. The alarming rate at which we are losing farmland, agricultural land here in the United States, farmers, ranchers, we are losing, and you talk about this. We're losing them daily. We're losing them weekly. What can we drive home for people, for no matter where someone is living? If you're living in the city, if you're living in the suburban area, if you're living in the country, why is this so important? Why does every single person need to take up this cause and protect what we're talking about today?
Well, and I'll interject just before you answer, Claire. Suburbia, they're coming for you too. They're coming for big yards. You think you got this nice little acre or two thing out here, and everybody's got an acre or two thing? No, they're coming.
Yeah. I think the number one reason why it's important for every American, no matter if you live in inner city, New York, Manhattan, Detroit, LA, Chicago, Austin, the reason you want to support your farmers and ranchers and you want a strong agriculture economy is so that you can go to the grocery store and continue to buy cheap food. Now, everyone is very alarmed at the price of food right now, and I don't blame them, but I will tell you this, that's not the farmers. See, the farmers do not live in a free market. Their price of their product is dictated to them by, let's just say, middlemen, for ease of explaining this whole very complex thing. And the price that the farmer is getting, by and large, except in the beef industry, and that's a whole other thing. But even then, let's take it farming, for example. Our grain farmers are getting 1970s prices for their products. Meanwhile, they're paying 2025 inputs. So you've got this massive out of balance scenario, which is driving the farmers out of business because they can't afford it. You can't afford to spend, let's just say, $100,000 to bring in a crop that's worth literally zero, literally nothing. But yet you had to spend $100,000 to grow that crop, and now it's worth nothing. That is the scenario we're dealing with in our grain farmers. Our beef prices, for example, It's like $6.30 for a pound of beef. Everyone wants to talk about how expensive beef is right now. Well, coffee is $8.33 a pound last time I saw it. Starbucks is still on average $4 to $5. I go to Starbucks and I get a cup of coffee with heavy cream only in it. It's almost $4 for a cup of coffee with heavy cream. That's it. So no one's talking about those prices, but for some reason, I think in the 80s we were at like $3 a pound, give or take, for a hamburger, a pound of hamburger, and now we're at $6.30 something. That's, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that big of a jump hike. Meanwhile, our ranchers have been going out of business until we've had a good market the past 2 years because of, supply and demand numbers. And some ranchers have been able to dig themselves out of debt, but everyone thinks that, the ranchers are getting massively wealthy. It's not that way. People don't see the decades of debt they're having to overcome and offset with 2 years of a good beef price. So the other reason, so that's to give some context to what I'm about to say next. If you continue to have fewer and fewer and fewer people controlling your food, you will go to the grocery store one day and you want to talk about a price hike. You've got a perfect recipe at that point for a few people to control the price of food. And if we think rent is high right now, which it is, you take away all of the 1.8 million farmers and ranchers there still are somehow by some miracle in this country, and you get half a dozen corporations owning and operating all the land, you will have problems as a society. The price of food will not be 10 or 12th on your list of worries. It'll be number one. And we have kept, the American farmer and rancher carries $500 billion of debt on their backs personally to their local banks, to their bankers, which I'm not saying bankers are bad. There are many, many, many great bankers out there that are helping farmers and ranchers survive. But we carry $500 billion of debt personally on our balance sheets so that the American people can have cheap food. We have, this is going to be controversial, but we have low, cheap food prices. Some could argue artificially low because we're sinking the farmers and ranchers into debt.
Yeah.
Not because they don't do a good job, not because they're ignorant, not because they don't understand their bottom lines. Farmers and ranchers are probably some of the better accountants out there these days. They talk to their accountants every day, talking about prices, expenses, profit and loss sheets. This whole argument that farmers and ranchers are going out of business because they're dumb, that does not hold water. We've got massive problems here that still are not being dealt with, and no one is even hardly talking about some of these bigger issues. Hey, call me up. I'll tell anybody who wants to know. But those are the reasons why the American people, they don't want to go out and do the work. You don't. It's okay. It's fine. You don't want to be out there in negative 30 degrees with 30-mile-an-hour wind, picking up a wet, soaking calf that's just been birthed here on this planet, covering in yourself in afterbirth, hauling that calf home to the garage, trying like hell to keep it alive, having to be half veterinarian in some aspects to keep those animals alive. The American people don't want to do it. That's great. I don't begrudge you. But you want people to be able to afford to do it. And that's where we're getting in this nation, is an affordability issue for American farmers and ranchers to be able to afford to farm and ranch. We don't have parity. That's a whole other topic. We don't have a free market system. At some point, it will give. Now, there's many ways, many solutions that we could take. But the main thing is, if I were to speak to those inner city folks, you want cheap food so that you don't have to worry about food. You want millions and millions of all kinds of individuals owning and operating the land, because the more spread out your land ownership base is, the less control bad actors can have. Thomas Jefferson, even though our founding fathers get a bad rap, were they perfect? No. But Thomas Jefferson said it best. As long as America is owned by a wide plethora of individuals owning and operating the land, and we are an agrarian society that can feed itself, America will be fine. But we are hurtling towards a cliff. And I'm not trying to be an Armageddonist. I'm not trying to be an alarmist. This is just the real facts of where we are.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, the alarm, the bell rings itself. I mean, facts are facts. You know, we're in the swirl and the drain stage of all this stuff. And it's not, and it's the jig is in on you. You know, it's like people need to care, you know, and there's this concerted effort to try and remove meat eaters, period. I mean, that's part of this whole thing, you know, so
climate change and cows. That's
exactly. So,
don't
you know,
get me on that. So
the more people you can get off of, you know, meat. Well, obviously we don't need that land for that grazing. What a waste of land. I mean, these people believe this. And it's just another way to brainwash people into believing that there's a more efficient way, there's a technological way, and meanwhile you're just going to just eat more and more crap, and the crap that's made for half a pennies that's stuck in boxes, you know, is going to become expensive, like you just said, because there will be nowhere else. There'll be no other. Honestly, what I hear here is farming has always been a self-motivated, self-reliant, self-sufficient way to earn a life, but it comes with much sacrifice. It's a sacrificing career to have. Mm-hmm. And no one in any other company would just go, yeah, okay, I'll take out another loan. No, nobody, and they're not stupid. So stop it, because they've been saving us, and we live in a very unsacrificial environment these days. And no one wants to sacrifice anything.
Yeah,
I mean, people don't even want to sacrifice anything. Yeah. Never mind birthing a cow and 30 below. No one's doing it. Okay, no one's going to do it. So I think that all the alarm things should be pushed.
Yeah,
all the time, because you got a lot of murky brain fog to get through. You know, this is where we're at. And like you said earlier, a lot of people are preoccupied with their own way of it. Yeah, but we're all in this together, realize. Mm-hmm. And we all going to need to eat.
It's all connected. Everything that we all have our own niche in society as human beings, wherever we are, we all have our own gifts, our own talents, our own, you know, where we are, what we're giving back and what we're able to do, but it all works together and we're all connected. And so we need all of it, and we have to pay attention that you can't just go, well, that doesn't affect me, or that's right. I'm not involved in that. But you are. If you're eating, you're involved in this. If you want to be able to go to the grocery store and have a good availability of food, you know, you had this is connected to all of us: food, water, shelter. We're talking about people who are impeding basic human necessity, food, water, shelter, from all of us who don't have that, you know, financial prowess and power, you know, that so many of these upper echelons do.
Right.
So,
and I mean, if you're a landowner, or you want to be someday, you better get in this. Middle class needs to wake up and get in this, because you're.
Well, there's way more middle class Americans, which I guess maybe we're all becoming lower class. I don't know what the terminology is now, right? But there's way more of us than them. Right. And we have to remember that, and we have to each get involved locally. And if we would each do that kind of a system is very powerful at pushing a lot of this back. That's the way our country was designed. That's the way our governments were designed, that each citizen were to never let down the cross or let down the sword when it comes to defending our own rights. We're not above it, and we need to each get involved in our local goings on. We need to be informed. We need to take action. We need to go to the meetings. We need to, when we hear something we don't understand, we need to go research it. We have the most powerful research engine right here at our fingertips. There's no excuses anymore. It's time that we must invest, but at the risk of us losing our ability to do that very thing, which is to be self-governed. So,
amen, sister.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
That's a pretty good place to start winding it down, because that was some actionable stuff. Get your kids out into the country. If you please, everybody learn. There are some wonderful documentaries out, by the way, too. And can we hug a farmer? What is happening right now? I feel like
I accept hugs.
everybody needs to spend at least 5 minutes after listening to this podcast, giving it some serious consideration about how you can be more in touch with people doing these things that are supplying you with food. What can we do?
Yeah.
And the actionable thing just starts really just from stopping and thinking,
Yeah.
and getting on board and losing your tribalism with the blue and the reds and the purples and the stop. Oh my word, please stop.
If I could just add one thing on closing on my behalf. No farmer and rancher wants a handout. Nobody's looking for a handout. Nobody's looking for anything but a way to move forward. Yeah. Farmers and ranchers are just they're just needing a way to not sink themselves into the oblivion of massive debt where they ultimately collapse under that weight. Also, we have one of the highest rising suicide rates of any sector in this economy, because the American farmer is the kind of person, and the American rancher, that after years and years and years of piling on debt through no fault of their own, blizzards, bad crop prices, you name it, bad this, bad that, pest events, whatever it is, exports, some politician deciding that the exports or imports are going to get jangled with. And after you stack that years and years of things that are not their fault, they're the kind of person, because they are self-reliant, they are the ones out there by themselves figuring it out day in, day out. They put that weight on themselves and they say, well, it must be my fault. Or maybe everyone would be happier if I wasn't here. Or maybe I could help my family more if I was gone. Maybe they could move on from this, shit show that we're all in. And maybe they could do something different with their lives. And so they take their own. No farmer or rancher is looking for a handout, but we cannot continue with these policies that have gotten us into this kind of a serious mess. And those are the things that I know that every farmer and rancher would want. And they probably would shun me for even bringing up the suicide rate, because we don't talk about our problems. We shoulder it and we carry on. And we're all proud to do that. But this economic system, this lack of free market that we are in farming and ranching, it's not sustainable. And that's what every American needs to know. So
100%.
Wow. Thank you so much,
I think it should be
Claire.
brought up, because I can't understand. I mean, every farmer I've ever known is kind of a wound up person. You can feel the stress of them, like they can't relax. It's just always going on and on and on and on. And I get that, and over a time, the trauma is there. I mean, self-reliant, hard ass, whatever, farmer, get through it all, kind of still just human at the end of the day. Yeah. And I think part of the shame of debt now is probably going to be coming into play. The burden of shame for, too much debt. And now I'm not going to be able to hand this down to my family without a bunch of debt connected to it. And like, I see it. I see how that's got to be a terrible burden.
Yeah.
Now we gotta pay some attention here. It's so past being deserved. Can we just speak up for them? They're not asking us to come out and detassel corn. They're asking us to stand up for them and go to your local areas and start going, listen, what are we doing about the farmers that are losing their farms? What are we doing about start watching some of these bills. We all have the power of the telephone and an email to, give them some heat. Don't sit by and wait till we're out of food and say, I've done nothing. I've done absolutely nothing, And
if nothing else, social media, share these posts, share Claire's posts, share somebody else's.
Share her new show, The Real Rural.
You don't even have to speak. You can just hit the share button and say, go check this out. It's important. I mean, something.
We'll say it for you. Okay. Yeah. Go and subscribe to her. We're up on YouTube now too. And so you subscribe to the Real Rural. Is that what it is? It the Real Rural? I know it's
Yeah,
at the Real Rural podcast. It's a new podcast that Claire has, and she's having farmers come on and tell their stories, and she's great instructional. I listened to a couple of them, bits and pieces before I fell asleep. I fell asleep to your voice. Okay. But it's very good. It's very instructive. And I think we can all be very motivated by it. And I'm touched and I'm inspired by what I've learned over the past few days in researching, by having you on as our guest. It's made me that much more instructive about how I want to speak up for farmers. And I live in an area where what is happening right now, I'm right here, breadbasket. Used to be, I don't know. It's something.
Yeah.
And we just have to get a grip on it. What are our farmers doing here? What kind of shape are they in?
Yeah.
Can we start doing some love bombing and share this stuff so people are aware and we can fight this through our government? These people are a bunch of losers doing nothing. It's time we put the fire to them. Get out. Do something good or get out. All right? Sick of you. So, okay. I know. Listen, I'm salty. Sarah,
all get involved.
I'm on the Salt Lick today, I can tell you.
Salt Lick.
Sarah, last words? You got some last words there?
Oh man, no, I just into what you were saying, Lori, like we're going to lose the legacy of these generational farms and farming that I don't think people again realize how important that is. We're talking about generations of people who have poured their heart and soul into this, and they don't want to lose it. We shouldn't want them to lose it either. We should protect these legacies. And this is, you're talking about families going generations back that have put their hard work into the soil, into the day-to-day grind of this. It is, it's a beautiful thing. I actually come from a family of farmers. My grandparents both grew up on farms, and my grandfather had a degree in agriculture. I mean, this is so important, and we just don't want to lose this. So I would say absolutely everyone needs to go follow Claire. You need to go share these posts. You need to follow anyone who is involved in this so that you can educate yourself, look at what's being said, go do your own research, get out there. When you're having that, $4 cup of coffee with your friend and you're chatting about whatever, bring this into the conversation and let's talk about what is truly important. Have these conversations over the dinner table. We talk about on the show all the time how important family dinners are and us getting back to that closeness of family. Everything starts in the home. So I'll just add that again. We say it all the time. We're probably, we're just completely redundant when we say that, but it's important. Everything begins in the home. Have these conversations in the home. Raise your children to understand these things. Let's just get out there and remember that no matter where we are in life and what we're all doing individually, it is all connected and we're all affecting and impacting each other. And so we need to all protect each other. We need to protect so many different things, but our conversation today is about farming and ranching and agriculture. And we cannot live without agriculture. We just absolutely cannot. So into discussion. So share it and educate yourselves. Yeah.
And if you want some Instagram moments, hang out at the farmer's market if you have one. Also, farm to table events, support chefs who are doing that are, that's not easy. And I speak from a chef who has looked into it and would like to do that again, but it's not easy. There's a lot of things you have to put together to make that happen, but support those because they're fantastic and they're learning events. Host one in your family. Find a chef who is local that will love to do it. There's a lot of ways. Everybody loves some food. Come on, people. I'm just begging you to take food behind the plate and see the farmer. I think that's what we need to do. There's a good t-shirt idea, I think. We need to just get away from the plated beauty and see a farmer behind it. And that's going to be important. And if you're going to research anything really quick, go ahead and just type in farmers protests in the UK. Listen, if it happens here, I'm with them. I'm out there. I am out there. I'm bringing them coffee. I'm doing all the things because listen, people, that's a pretty scary situation. Those farmers are pulling out there and good on them.
Yeah.
And Claire, there's your organization, Behind the Plate. All right.
Behind
Behind the plate.
good.
the
Okay.
man
so
behind the plate. You know, we got all the behind all the
what's
things.
behind the plate? We need
So-
to know.
Claire, give us all of your deets for how people can find your beautiful, awesome inspiration and beautiful voice and all of it.
Yeah, I am on every social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, or X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Clare Dunn Music, ClareDunn Music. And then my podcast, The Real Rule, is on YouTube at The Real Rule. We're on Instagram at The Real Rule. And then Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. Also, just search up The Real Rule and we'll come up. We're releasing a new episode, I think tomorrow night. So be on the lookout for that. And just, keep continuing to share these videos. And thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you. We wish you the best with your new podcast, and we feel
Yes.
very fortunate having you on. And I feel like I've made a new friend today. If there's ever anything these two broads can do to help
Yes,
rally
yes.
whatever's, let us know.
Please.
I hope to stay in touch, and we can prairie to prairie it from here, or maybe next time I'm in Nashville, we'll all get together. Whatever. It seems like we have a triangulation happening here. So
Love it.
thank you so much,
Yes,
our
thank
new
you.
friend, Claire. We wish you nothing but the best.
Thank
And
you.
go farmers. I'm with you. I'm virtually hugging you all. Okay.
All right.
God bless you. God bless everybody. Take care of each other.